1. I used to work at JCPenney in my local mall, and sometimes I'd go shop around the mall or in the store after my shift. This day I was shopping in a store called Deb after my shift, and the dress code there is similar to where I worked. It was business casual, and I was still wearing my work clothes. I was looking at some shirts laid out on the table, and when I was done, I quickly refolded and straightened what I messed up because it sucks to have someone mess up your table and not fix it. This lady comes up to me with her kid, who is probably 9 or 10, as I'm walking away, and asks if I could check in the back to see if they had a shirt she was holding in a different size. I apologized and told her I didn't work there. She immediately scowled at me and said she saw me straightening that table, so I obviously worked there. I told her again that I didn't work there, I was just straightening what I'd messed up, but I'm sure if she went to the register she could find someone to help her. She went into "I want to talk to your manager" mode. I was getting pretty fed up at this point and said again that I didn't work there and she needs to leave me alone. I then pull my phone out of my pocket and proceed to call my mom to come and get me because I didn't drive back then. Before I could even call my mom, this lady snatched my phone out of my hand and starts screaming about how I'm being disrespectful and she can't believe I'd ignore her like this, and how dare I make a call when I could be helping customers, and she demands to see my manager. I freak out and try to get my phone back, but she wouldn't give it back. A manager does come over when he hears a commotion and asks what's going on, and this lady immediately starts screaming about how I'm a terrible employee and should be fired, and the poor guy was so confused. I finally had enough of this woman and went off. I got in her face and said, "Listen, lady, I've already told you multiple times I don't work here, and you can't seem to get that through your thick skull. Not only are you harassing me, you've stolen my phone, and if you don't give it back to me right now, I will have the manager call mall security." Her face was so red with rage I thought steam was going to come out of her ears. She starts screaming again, and the manager had the good sense to go ahead and call mall security. They show up, I explain what's going on, the manager confirms, they get my phone back, and she's banned from the mall. 2. Some background. I work at a farm and home store, retail. I'm a cashier at the service desk, which means I deal with returns and also check out customers. We have a clearance section for things that are broken, we have too many of a product, need them gone. When things go on clearance, we have these little sticker guns that make little orange stickers with the new price on them. The sticker tells the date the sticker was made as well as the new price. On to the story. The other day I was having a so-so day when a customer brings up a high-end handheld light. I ring it up and it turns out to be $30. Your total is $30. Angry customer turns over and taps the clearance sticker. This should mean it's on clearance, right? I take a look at it and realize that the sticker is for $1.26. You heard that right. I check the package to see if anything was missing or broken. Or if it was a previous return, open packages equals can't make as much profit reselling it. Everything looked neat and clean and new. Package was still new. I'm sorry, sir, I don't think I can do this because of the large price difference. Obviously, I noticed this shouldn't be clearanced. What do you mean? The tag says $1.26. My dad came by earlier and saw how cheap it was and he called and told me about it. I'm sitting here thinking, first off, if your dad found it for $1.26 when he was here, why didn't he buy it? This is a store that most people come in with at least $20, because you don't really come here to casually look around. I'm sorry, sir, I really can't do this. I drove all the way here from Poopersville, just for this product. If you guys have the wrong price on the product, that's not my fault, and you should give it to me for that price because of your mistake. Don't make me get your manager. Okay, sir, let me change it for you. Now, I know that when a cashier puts in a price exceeding 50%, you need a manager to come up to the desk to manually override it. I planned on this because I'm tired of arguing, seeing I'm getting nowhere and he wouldn't listen to me. And I know the manager is going to take my side on this. We really can't do a price change like that. What's up? I need a price override on this product. It's originally $30, and there is a clearance sticker for $1.26. At this point, angry customer is looking pretty smug. We can't do that. But that's what the sticker says. You guys can't false advertise like that. You should give it to me for $1.26 because that's what the sticker says. Sir, we can get fired if we give this product to you for this low. At this point I notice that there looked to be another sticker under the $1.26 sticker. The date on the $1.26 sticker says 9/23/18. I pick up the product and gently peel off the top sticker. Underneath is a sticker that says $25 and dated 11/3/18. You can put two and two together. It looks like this sticker was peeled off from another product and stuck on this one. At this point, angry customers are getting red-faced and flustered. We can give this to you for $25, but that's the lowest we can go. Fine, whatever, I've been here long enough anyway. He paid and hastily rushed out. My manager and I shared a knowing look. We warned the other cashiers that some people will do this, especially around holiday seasons. Always check the stickers below it to make sure the dates are at least sequential. 3. Hey, so I work for my family business. We manufacture and sell leather products in a few stores. I was working a shift at one of the stores at a local mall last week when a customer came in. First, he wanted me to price match one of our cheaper wallets for our premium leather wallets, which made no sense. But I tell him I cannot and think nothing of it. He stays in the store a bit longer looking at all the jackets and begins asking really specific questions about where they are made, how we make them, and just a lot of questions. I think he's an enthusiastic customer, so I happily give him lots of details hoping to get them to buy. He then starts asking detailed questions about our profits and financial situation. Now this is where I feel it gets weird, and I vaguely answer those questions. But then I ask him why he is asking. I assumed he was just bored or something. He ignores my questions and walks around a bit more, looking at more jackets. I offer to let him try some on, but he claims it's too expensive and walks out. He comes back about 30 minutes later, straight to the front desk, and pulls out his phone. He shows me a picture of a leather jacket and asks me how much something like this would sell for. I tell him I cannot answer his questions, but hint that the jacket was not high quality, so not for much. He gets offended at this and begins telling me about how he has amazing contacts somewhere who can make this jacket for him, and that he can easily sell it for so much money. I tell him that's great, but he insists on talking more and more, and ends up telling me that he wants to get into the leather business, and began making and selling jackets as well. For some reason, he thinks he can disclose that information and continue to get information on our business, as he once again begins asking detailed questions about the business. I refuse to continue talking to him as he is wasting my time, so I just tell him that I can't answer any more questions and ask him to leave. He leaves without much hesitation, but does call me rude. Today he came back with what I assume are his 2 adult sons. Now at first I don't recognize him, I can never remember customer faces, but I ask them if they had any questions about the jackets. He laughs and says, "No, but I do have questions for you." I get really confused, but then I realize that this was the business-stealing man from last week. I cease to give him any further service and they leave after a bit. However, they come back again and start to take pictures of the jackets. I immediately go over and prohibit them from taking pictures. The son gets antsy and starts making up a story about how he wants to get a few of our jackets for his daughter, and he was taking pictures to show her. I tell him sorry, but we don't allow photos. This is where he gets angry and starts demanding to know why we won't allow photos, calls me rude, tells me that they won't buy unless I allow pictures, and begins to tell me how it's illegal to get him to stop taking pictures in my own store. I get fed up and tell him that the reason I'm not allowing pictures is because his wise old dad told me last week about how he wanted to make his own jackets and sell them. So why would I allow pictures of our own designs just for him to steal them? He gets red in the face, yells a few choice swear words at me, tells me to get ready for competition, and how they will tear our business down, takes his dad and leaves, all in front of other customers. I ignore them and continue my day a bit annoyed but unbothered. I deal with lots of intense customers, but these two were one of the worst ones. 4. At the time I was a student at university, and was working a bathing suit store attached to a pool. The cashier area had a window into the pool's entrance behind it. The supervisor was usually in the warehouse, which is a bit of a hike from the other side of the pool. The policy was that we don't do refunds unless the suit falls apart, because there's no way to resell intimate apparel. Anyway, I came in after classes for my closing shift, relieving the person who worked day. First customer I see is a middle-aged lady who is wearing one of our one-piece swimsuits, dripping wet from just having got out of the pool. She is furious and shaking with the temperature difference and with anger.
I need a refund for this suit. It's defective.
Okay, let me get my supervisor on his way to help, since I don't have the code to process a refund. I call him in the warehouse and he says he's on his way. Now, where is the defect in your suit?
Here.
She proceeded to pull down the front of her suit, exposing her breast to me, to the store, which wasn't empty as a few people had wandered in while I was on the phone, but it emptied again quickly after that, and to the window into the pool area. She was pointing at the support bra on the inside of the suit that had removable cups so you could customize support for the wearer. The cups on the inside of it had rolled up. That's not a defect, that's a design feature of that suit. I try to explain how it works. All you need to do is unroll it.
It's a defect and I demand my money back.
At this point, my supervisor arrives. What's the trouble here? The lady again pulls down her swimsuit, flashing everyone. My poor supervisor puts up his hand to try and block out the view, as he's also just a 20-something-year-old in university. Over the next hour, we offer her any solution we can think of to settle her, short of a refund. I offered to replace the cups. I offered for her to use our change room and let me fix them for her. Over and over again, we reiterated the no refunds or exchanges policy, and why we couldn't waive it for her. She pulled her suit down several more times while we discussed the issue. Finally, she is spitting mad and we're on our last nerve. You know, they are removable. I can take them right out for your comfort level.
What? And show my nipples to the whole effing pool?
At that point, I nearly cracked a rib trying not to laugh in her face. We had some comment cards on the counter and she filled one out with a massive complaint against both of us, and insisted on walking with my supervisor to the closed-for-the-night head office for the pool and store to make sure he handed it in. We were called in early the next day to offer an explanation of the events. Neither of us got into trouble, and everyone who heard the story got a huge laugh out of the shy flasher customer. 5. I live in a small Canadian town in northeastern Alberta, known primarily for agriculture and its proximity to the oil field. It was everything you'd expect a small town to be, nothing more and nothing less. Whilst upgrading some high school classes in an effort to get into a post-secondary institution, I worked at a family chain restaurant owned by a friend of my father's. A very fortunate contact given that soon after I began working there, the economy took a sharp downturn and full-time employment was precious. Now, because this takes place in a small town of around 6,500 people, many people knew each other. Coming from a family that had been in the area for over 100 years, my last name was rather well known. I only mention this because due to such familiarity, many of my customers knew me in some capacity, although mostly as my father's son as he owned a local business. I was fortunate in that regard as I rarely had any trouble with any customers. Most were on the older side and would often tell me of how they knew my grandfather, father, or any other immediate family. Again, small town thing, but all in all, not a bad gig. However, because this is the customer service industry, there were a handful of royal cunts that I hated dealing with. Anyone who's ever worked as a waiter knows the type: non-tipper, messy, rude, overly fussy, manager summoning white soccer moms, with that stereotypical flip haircut, or whatever the hell it's called, etc. Fortunately, they were few and far between. But there was one family that is collectively the star of this show. The family that darkened one or two specific booths, always in my section, lucky me, twice a week or so, consisted of a mother, father, 2 teenage daughters, and one spoiled little shit that had to be 5 or 6 years old. From the very first time I served them, it was clear that he was in charge, a fact they even admitted, completely seriously, following a related sarcastic remark from Kay that genuinely shocked the both of us. Besides doing nothing at all to restrain their little failed abortion, the parents, a term I use loosely here, gave in to his every whim and, by doing so, encouraged his behavior. Now, if that had been me, my parents would have ensured that I wouldn't have been able to sit down for a week. I should also mention that they were rude, always left a godforsaken mess, and never tipped. Now, since I had dealt with my fair share of troublesome patrons over the years, I was a pretty patient guy. My only goal was to get them their food as fast as possible, so they could be out as soon as possible. And for the most part, that's how it went. Now, as most of you may know, most family-oriented chain restaurants provide crayons and coloring sheets to occupy kids so they won't destroy everything in sight. Usually it works great. Parents get a brief respite and the kids are happy. Oh, but not for this family. Every time little junior son of a bitch got his mitts on a crayon, he'd break it. Then proceed to draw not on the coloring sheet so thoughtfully provided, but on the window. That's right, he'd crawl under the table, plop himself down on the floor, and go to town on the large window. The restaurant was lined with floor-to-ceiling windows, running along the perimeter of the place. You know how hard it is to remove crayon from glass? I can tell you because I found out firsthand after they left, when a very apologetic Kay provided me with a razor and asked me to clean it off. I did so, mostly out of respect for her. While it was also my job to clean up after others, she knew how annoyed I was. Which is why I think she let me get away with what eventually transpired. During the hour or so I spent carefully scraping the wax off the glass, and subsequently window washing, we had gotten busy again, and although Kay and another waitress, aided by a new girl we were training, held down the fort, I missed out on $30 to $40 in tips, not a small amount to a guy renting his own place for the first time. Needless to say, I was pissed and decided enough was enough. I spent my walk home concocting a plan to remedy the situation. I got my chance about 3 days later when they shuffled in and sat in their usual spot. I had initially thought of asking the new girl, still a hostess in training, to withhold the crayons. But then I realized that what I had planned wouldn't have the same impact, so I simply waited for my opportunity. I went up to them and did my thing, taking drink orders and telling them about the specials, but keeping an eye on them as I punched in their appetizers like a viper waiting to strike. And strike I did. Just as little junior son of a bitch grabbed a freshly broken crayon and headed for his favorite place on the floor, I grabbed a squeeze bottle of cleaner we used to sanitize the tabletops along with a rag, placed them on the table with a light bang, looked them dead in the eye, easy to do as they were all looking right at me in surprise, and said, "Next time I catch him doing that, you guys can clean it up." I then proceeded to ignore them completely. Oh man, were they pissed off. It should come as no surprise that they summoned Kay, told her about me, then left, never to return. She came up to me and simply said, "That was stupid." I agreed with her, but argued that their behavior was bullshit, and I shouldn't be missing out on considerable tip money, just because they refused to control baby Satan. She saw my point of view, told me to handle it better next time or come to her first, and that was that. Of course, that story got back to the owner of the place who, to his credit, had a good laugh about it and told me, I shit you not, "Good job." Now, I hadn't been terribly worried about my job, but it was still great to hear. I know that it looks like I exploited a personal connection to abuse some power I didn't officially have, and to that I say tough titties. Just because you're a waiter doesn't make you a slave. Sometimes people just need to be told that what they're doing is unacceptable. To quote Ryan Reynolds from the movie Waiting, seriously, watch it, "Don't fuck with people that handle your food." Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, number 40. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. Well, trying to get these done so I can have, technically a day off on Tuesday, but what I need to do is I need to go around the house, I need to remove all the curtains and blinds, put them somewhere safe, make sure all the screws and everything don't get lost. Then I need to clear everything away from my windows so that big burly men can come on Wednesday and take all the windows out and put shiny new ones in, which I will then clean after they leave and make them even more shiny. The thing is, if my mother was still alive, what she'd be doing tomorrow is, don't get me wrong, I'll dust and vacuum, certainly. It's been a while since I did it, it's kind of disgraceful actually. But I'll get that done. But my mother would actually clean the windows before they came to remove them, because that's the kind of person she was. She'd think it'd be embarrassing if they came to, take the windows out and throw them away if they were dirty. But no, I shan't be cleaning the windows. I'll leave them as they are. Okay, with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.